Hey everybody, and welcome to Wednesdays with Watson. My name is Amy Watson, and I am so excited that you have decided to join us for our inaugural season of Wednesdays with Watson. After much planning, much procrastination, and a whole lot of prayer, we have decided to launch this podcast, and we've decided to name Season 1 PTSD, Jesus, and Me. During the course of this season, we will talk about my story of ridiculous hope, ridiculous healing, and yes, some repercussions of complex post-traumatic stress disorder after living through 3 decades of trauma. This podcast is produced by the amazingly talented Amy Salzman and is brought to you by your favorite podcast streaming services. Make sure you hit that subscribe button at the bottom of your favorite streaming service so that you can continue to get our podcast when we publish them every other Wednesday. Also, we'll be honored if you would follow me on social media. Facebook and Twitter are the same, Amy Watson Author, and Instagram is Author Amy Watson. I am so excited to be on this journey with you, and let the healing begin. This podcast is produced by Amy Hyland and brought to you by your favorite podcast streaming service. And in order for you to keep getting our podcasts and notifications, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I would also be honored if you would follow me on social media. All social media platforms are the same: Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, Amy Watson Author. Buckle up, let's enjoy the ride, and let the healing begin. Hey everybody, and welcome to the inaugural season of Wednesdays with Watson. And I wish that you could actually see the smile on my face that would reflect my gratitude for you just spending a few minutes of your time with me today. You know, it has often been said that the best investment of our time, if we are going to spend time in the written word, or in this case, the spoken word, that we should write about or speak about something that we know, something that maybe we would be considered an expert. I'm not sure that I believe that, but we're going to go with it. I wish I were not an expert on the topic that I chose for the inaugural season of Wednesdays with Watson. I wish I could tell you that I was an expert in this field because of the degrees on my walls, or because classes that I've attended, or just I was born with the expertise, but none of that is true. The reality is that the topic that I decided to spend my inaugural season of my podcast on comes from personal experience backed by a lifetime of trauma. As I prayed about the topic for Season 1, the thing that you would listen to on the other side, and on your phone or on your iPad, on your computer, as I prayed about what to talk about, I fought it for a long time. But I landed on my experience and my diagnosis with post-traumatic stress disorder. I decided to tell this story because the story is greater than just the diagnosis. The story is greater than the trauma that led to the diagnosis. The story is a story of healing, although the healing doesn't look like maybe I wanted it to. Maybe some people on the outside wouldn't consider that there's been healing, but there's been healing, and I want to tell you that story. I want to tell you the 3 reasons why I feel like I am sitting here alive and breathing and able to even do this today. Primarily, first and foremost, my faith in Jesus, who is the author and finisher, who paid a heavy price so that I could walk this earth and that I could heal from pain, particularly from pain from trauma. Followed closely by my community, oftentimes the same, the community in my church, although that's not the entire community that has helped me through this. And then finally, and probably the most difficult, a lot of time in a counselor's office and trauma-informed therapy. I can't wait to tell you the story of my church and how they came alongside of me. I can't wait to tell you the story of my pastor's wife who drove me to the hospital and admitted me to the psych ward. I can't wait to tell you the story of the shock on my face when the doctor told me that I had post-traumatic stress disorder. I just looked at her because I didn't ever think that I was worthy of a diagnosis. I thought my pain was never going to matter, and I certainly didn't think that I deserved any treatment or any intervention at all. Can't wait to tell you the story of how I have learned my value through my healing with post-traumatic stress disorder. I can't wait to tell you those stories. I can't wait to tell you the story of my coworkers who each of them gave a sick day so that I could take another 30 days of intensive outpatient therapy after having spent 5 days in the hospital under a psych hold, basically. After 35 years, my body just fell apart. I can wait to tell you that story, but I'm going to anyway. That's not something that I really like to talk about. It's a lot of pain. But if you know me, and if you've ever met me, one statement that you've always heard me say is that I just want to be a good steward of my pain. I want my pain to matter. And so I hope it matters in your life, whether you are suffering from any of these illnesses like post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, or depression. Did you guys catch that I called that an illness? Because that's what it is. Whether they are psychological illnesses, whether they are physiological illnesses, or whether they are like mine, trauma-based, they are illnesses. Make no mistake. We are now connected, unlike when I was diagnosed 12 years ago. We are more connected with everyone in our lives than we ever have been in the history of the world, yet we are more disconnected than we've ever been as well. As I am recording this, we are currently under a worldwide pandemic, basically a virus that is ruling our lives. Fear is ruling, and uncertainty is at an all-time high. And there's no doubt that we will have so many more diagnoses of all of these types of disorders and these illnesses when this is all over. My question to you is, what will we do then? Because it's been 12 years and because I have been on a journey of healing, I feel like I have something to add. I feel like we all have something to add. During the course of this podcast, it is my desire that we will learn together how to walk alongside those who are either in our church, our workplace, or our family who are suffering from these debilitating illnesses. How do we take the stigma away from medical intervention? How do we take the stigma away from pharmaceutical intervention? How do we take the stigma away from trauma-informed therapy? How do we help people? How do we do that? How do we provide a safe place for them to seek help? During the course of this season, you will have the opportunity to hear from experts in the field, one of them being the counselor who is actually walking me through my diagnosis of complex post-traumatic stress disorder. You also have the opportunity to hear from some of my friends who walked me through this. It is my hope that you will find comfort and healing in my story. It is my hope that you will resist the temptation to compare my story with yours. It is my hope that you will resist the temptation to compare my healing with yours. I fully recognize that my healing looks different. I fully recognize that there are some of you under the sound of my voice who have begged God to heal them, and God has chosen to tell a different story, and you still wake up and struggle to get out of bed. I am fully aware of that, and I strongly encourage you not to compare my story with yours, but to gain hope from the star of my story and the star of yours too, and that is the great physician. Jesus is the star of my story. He is the one that even when healing doesn't look like I want it to, there has been healing that has not come for me. There is lots of healing that has come for me, and over the course of this podcast, I'll share some of those things with you. But he hasn't taken it all away like I'd like him to, but he's still the star of my story, and I want him to be the star of yours too. He is the great physician. He's a great physician for us all. This is a very real issue, guys, and it is my desire for my pain to matter. Otherwise, I'd just rather go ahead and be with Jesus now, because my pain needs to matter. It needs to give you hope. It needs to help you understand that you can wake up with hope and faith and love and joy in every single one of its cousins. It is my desire that if you are not suffering from some of these things, that you will be able to help those who are. Regardless of why you're here or how long you'll stay, I'm so glad that you are here. I want you to know that I want Joel 2:25 to be highlighted in my story and anything I ever touch, whether that be the written or the spoken word. Because Jesus is the great Redeemer of all of the years that our enemy has stolen from us. He is remarkably faithful in that promise, and that promise happens to be one of my favorite promises in all of the Bible. We will have such great opportunity during the course of this podcast to grow together, to learn together. The podcast itself will evolve, and it will be directed by that star of the story that I keep telling you about, the great physician who wants to heal us in the way that he wants to heal us so that it can be used. Romans 8:28 is a verse that's so often overused, but so true, that all things work together for the good to those that love God. And if we will let the star of our story, the great physician, heal us in whatever way he wants to, whether that means that we still have to depend on him for every single breath because sometimes it hurts to breathe, when the nightmares and the terrors and the physical symptoms of some of these things still occur. I want us to always lean on that great physician and trust him because he is good. He is so good. Even if he doesn't heal us the way we want to be healed, he will redeem those years. It will certainly be an adventure. It'll be an adventure for you, and it'll be an adventure for me. And I know that the subject matter tends to be a little bit heavy, but I promise that we will have a whole bunch of fun. While we're at it, please go ahead and click on that subscribe button so that when we do publish podcasts every other Wednesday, that is immediately downloaded to your device. I'd also love it if you guys would follow me on social media. Basically, all social media is the same. So Instagram, Facebook, as well as Twitter is Amy Watson Author. You can also email me at amywatsonauthor.com. I covet your prayers as we go on this adventure together, and certainly would love to pray for you. And so you could use any of those mediums to get those prayer requests to me. See you guys in a couple weeks, and until then, take care.